In the world of bodybuilding, it's common for the biggest names to be associated with winning the Mr. Olympia title, the sport's most coveted trophy. However, there are athletes who, even without lifting that cup, manage to leave a legacy that transcends victories on stage. Mike Matarazzo is one of those rare cases. Although he was never crowned Mr. Olympia, his impact and contribution to bodybuilding are undeniable. Matarazzo wasn't just another competitor, but a figure who inspired and impressed with his dedication and commanding presence. His dense musculature, especially his arms and calves, made him an instant icon in the competitions of the 90s. Throughout his career, Mike was a crowd favorite thanks to his impressive physique and charisma off the stage. He knew how to captivate the audience and always put on a show in competitions, even when facing some of the biggest names in bodybuilding history. But beyond his performance, what truly set Mike apart was his perseverance. He didn't just compete to win. He competed to prove that with hard work and passion, it was possible to stand out in a sport dominated by giants. His journey proves that true success goes beyond trophies. It lies in the mark you leave on people. But before we dive in, I need your help to keep this channel going and to continue bringing you this kind of content. If you enjoy my work, consider becoming a member. Believe me, it's something that won't break the bank but makes all the difference in helping me continue to produce high-quality videos for you. And if you're new here and want more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, drop a like, and hit the notification bell. This way, YouTube knows this content deserves to be shared with more people, and you won't miss any of the upcoming videos. Oh, and I'm aiming to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I'm counting on you. Let's do this. Mike Matarazzo was born in Boston, Massachusetts in 1965, and from a young age, he showed an interest in sports and bodybuilding. With roots in an Italian family, he grew up with a strong work ethic, something that would be reflected throughout his bodybuilding career. During his teenage years, he began training seriously, falling in love with the results he saw in the mirror. Inspired by bodybuilders from the golden era, Mike decided he not only wanted to enter the sport, but also leave his mark on it. His journey officially began in the late 80s when he competed in local competitions, drawing attention for his dense and extremely developed physique. One of the characteristics that set Mike Matarazzo apart was the incredible symmetry between his upper and lower body. While many bodybuilders struggled to maintain balance between different parts of their physique, Mike was an exception. His arms were massive, and his calves were undoubtedly among the best in the sport, with impressive muscle that stood out even alongside the biggest names of the time. This muscular balance, combined with extreme density, made Mike a unique and unforgettable competitor. From the start, it was clear he had a different physique, with proportions that made him stand out in competitions. Early in his career, Matarazzo quickly became known for his approach to training. He was renowned for pushing his muscles to the absolute limit, training with an intensity that few could match. His lifestyle was marked by dedication to nutrition and heavy training, which resulted in a massive and impressive physique. Additionally, he always maintained strict discipline both inside and outside the gym, helping him build a solid and highly symmetrical body. Soon, Matarazzo began to climb the bodybuilding ranks, attracting attention from both judges and fans. He competed in local and regional events, but it was his first appearance at Mr. Olympia in the 90s that truly put him on the map as one of the most promising bodybuilders of his generation. Although he was still far from winning the title, his stage presence was already notable. His groundbreaking physique, balancing mass and definition in a unique way, made him stand out in a competitive scene dominated by the monsters of the time. The 90s marked one of the most intense and competitive eras in bodybuilding. It was the decade that saw the rise of legends who would shape the future of the sport, and Mike Matarazzo dove headfirst into this scene, sharing the stage with giants like Dorian Yates, Flex Wheeler, Kevin Levrone, and Sean Ray. These athletes weren't just elite bodybuilders but true titans who revolutionized the sport, pushing the standards of muscular size and definition to unprecedented levels. Each brought something unique. Dorian Yates with his massive density, Flex Wheeler with his aesthetic fluidity, and Kevin Levrone with his impeccable combination of size and proportion. For many, competing against these names seemed like an impossible mission. But for Mike Matarazzo, this was the perfect opportunity to show that he also deserved his place among the greatest. Throughout the decade, Matarazzo stood out for maintaining remarkable consistency in all of his performances. He wasn't just another competitor on stage. His presence was unmistakable, even alongside enormous physiques like Dorian Yates, who dominated the Mr. Olympia scene. Mike managed to capture attention with his dense and proportional build. He became known for his unique combination of muscular mass and symmetry, something that few athletes could achieve so harmoniously. His massive arms and monumental calves became his signature, leaving a lasting impression in every competition he entered. One of the most significant competitions in Matarazzo's career was the Mr. Olympia, the largest and most prestigious arena in the bodybuilding world. Although the Mr. Olympia title was dominated by Dorian Yates throughout much of the 90s, Mike was always in the running, battling some of the best competitors in history. His first appearance at Olympia brought him into the spotlight, showing the public that he wasn't there just to compete, but to make his mark. Even without securing the top title, Matarazzo always brought a physique that challenged his opponents and kept him among the top contenders, earning the respect of both judges and fans alike. Competing in Mr. Olympia was undoubtedly one of the greatest challenges any bodybuilder could face. The preparation was intense, requiring sacrifices in all areas of the athlete's personal and professional lives. Mike Matarazzo was no exception. He trained with tireless intensity, always striving to improve his physique and reach the level necessary to compete against the giants of his time. However, Mike's battle wasn't just against the other competitors. It was also against the increasingly extreme standards of the sport. During this decade, bodybuilding began to shift towards more massive and disproportionate physiques. Matarazzo, however, always stuck to his philosophy of balance between muscular mass, definition, and aesthetics, which set him apart from the rest. In addition to the Olympia, Matarazzo also had memorable appearances at the Arnold Classic, one of the most important competitions on the circuit. Though he never secured first place, his consistent presence among the top competitors proved that he was a force to be reckoned with. Even when facing competitors with even larger physiques, Mike stood firm in his approach to a more aesthetically balanced body. His determination to stand out in such a competitive era filled with massive physiques is one of the main reasons he remains an iconic figure in bodybuilding. Another factor that made Matarazzo a standout competitor was his ability to captivate the audience. He wasn't just a bodybuilder who brought muscles to the stage. He brought entertainment and energy. His presence was uniquely felt, and this helped him build a loyal fan base that followed him to every competition. Matarazzo was charismatic, knew how to interact with the crowd, and always gave his best during performances. Even when the results weren't what he had hoped for, his dedication and passion for the sport were never in question. Mike Matarazzo was also known for his transparent approach to the challenges he faced. He was always honest about the constant pressure to maintain a high-level physique during an era when the expectation for increasingly larger muscles was immense. This frankness and authenticity made him even more admired by fans and respected by his fellow competitors. He didn't hide behind a perfect image. Instead, he revealed the reality behind the scenes of bodybuilding, something that deeply resonated with those who followed his career. Throughout the 90s, Mike Matarazzo built a legacy as one of the most consistent and charismatic competitors of his generation. Even without winning the Mr. Olympia or the Arnold Classic, he achieved something that many champions don't: lasting respect and admiration. His ability to compete at a high level during one of the sport's toughest eras while staying true to his identity is what makes Mike a bodybuilding legend. One of the most admired qualities in Mike Matarazzo was his consistency. In a sport where the level of demand increases with each competition, staying competitive year after year is a rare and extremely difficult feat. Many athletes experience performance peaks, but few manage to maintain a level of excellence for as long as Mike did. He took the stage always prepared, with a solid and impressive physique, regardless of the obstacles that arose in his journey. His dedication to training and nutrition allowed him to present a muscular and aesthetically balanced body, one that rarely disappointed the audience or the judges. Mike was a competitor who understood not only the importance of muscle building, but also the power of a great stage presentation. He had a unique presence, capable of drawing attention and captivating the audience the moment he stepped on stage. His ability to pose and showcase his strengths, like his incredibly developed arms and the calves that became one of his trademarks, was one of his greatest weapons. While many bodybuilders had impressive physiques, not all knew how to display them effectively. Mike, on the other hand, was a master at showing off his best features, knowing exactly how to impress the judges at the right moments. Matarazzo's consistency extended beyond his physique. He was also known for his tireless energy and commitment to the sport. Even when competitions didn't go as expected, he never let the quality of his performance drop. He had a visible passion for bodybuilding, something that set him apart from other athletes who sometimes seemed to be chasing titles. For Mike, being on stage was an opportunity to showcase the results of his hard work and dedication. This passion was evident in every competition, and fans, along with his fellow competitors, deeply respected his competitive attitude. Another defining aspect of Mike's presence on stage was his confidence. He knew his physique was a force to be reckoned with, and he used that to his advantage. With a body that combined dense muscle mass with enviable symmetry, Mike didn't need to overdo his poses or do anything too flashy to impress. His confidence came from the consistent work he put in at the gym, and that showed when he stepped on stage. He didn't just pose. He displayed his physique with the assurance of someone who knew they had something special to offer. This mastery of his own image helped him stand out among so many talented athletes. Matarazzo's calves, in particular, were a spectacle on their own. Considered by many experts and fans to be some of the best in the history of the sport, they were voluminous, defined, and perfectly proportioned to the rest of his body. At a time when many bodybuilders focused solely on massive upper bodies, Mike maintained a balanced physique that appealed to both judges and fans. His emphasis on symmetry and proportions made him an example of how bodybuilding wasn't just about size, but also about how each muscle harmonized with the rest of the body. Although Matarazzo didn't take home the titles of Mr. Olympia or Arnold Classic, his consistency in always presenting a high-level physique made him a standout figure in the bodybuilding world. He was never an athlete with inconsistent results. Year after year, he delivered solid performances worthy of admiration. Even amidst the pressure of competing against athletes focused solely on extreme mass, Mike held on to his vision of a balanced, aesthetically pleasing physique. For that reason, he stood out and remained a fan favorite among both spectators and fellow competitors. Mike Matarazzo proved throughout his career that consistency and the ability to master the art of showcasing one's physique are just as important as muscle size itself. His captivating stage presence and tireless focus on symmetry left a lasting mark on bodybuilding. While many athletes got lost in the pursuit of sheer size, Mike always understood that true excellence lay in the balance between strength, aesthetics, and presentation. His legacy as a consistently impressive competitor serves as an inspiration to bodybuilders who understand that success on stage is a combination of hard work, discipline, and the ability to captivate an audience with confidence. Despite the success and admiration that Mike Matarazzo earned throughout his career, bodybuilding also brought serious challenges to his health. Like many of his contemporaries, he faced the consequences of years of intense training, extreme diets, and the use of substances that are common in high-performance sports. Although his physique was impressive and he maintained a disciplined routine, his body began to show signs of wear. The first problems started to surface in the 90s when Matarazzo was diagnosed with heart complications. This marked a decisive turning point in his life and career. Mike Matarazzo's heart began to experience serious issues, a result of the constant strain imposed on his body to maintain a competitive physique. The use of anabolic steroids and other substances common in the bodybuilding world at that time may have accelerated these problems, though Mike was always transparent about the risks of the sport. He never denied using these substances, but he was honest about the consequences of choosing the path of professional bodybuilding. In an interview, he mentioned how the culture of the sport back then encouraged the use of performance-enhancing drugs, with little concern for long-term effects. As his heart issues worsened, Mike faced a tough decision. He had to step away from competitions and prioritize his health. His retirement came early in 2001, when he was still at the peak of his physical form. For his fans and followers, it was a shock. That athlete who always brought a strong presence to the stage had to step back, not because of a lack of will, but due to survival. Despite the disappointment of not being able to continue competing, Matarazzo was always clear in saying that, in the end, his life and family were more important than any title or trophy. After his retirement, Mike underwent several heart surgeries. In 2004, he needed a coronary artery bypass surgery, a complex procedure to correct his blocked arteries. From that moment, his life changed drastically. He left behind the intense training and competitions, focusing on improving his health and warning other athletes about the risks of extreme bodybuilding. Mike used his experience to raise awareness among the new generation of bodybuilders, many of whom still believe that using performance-enhancing substances would not bring severe consequences. Matarazzo became an example of how the dangers of professional bodybuilding can be real and devastating. In his public statements, he always emphasized the importance of taking care of oneself and understanding that bodybuilding wasn't a short-term race, but a journey that should be sustainable over time. He encouraged young athletes to pursue health and longevity in the sport rather than chasing quick gains. This warning, coming from one of the sport's most respected and admired athletes, had a significant impact on the community, especially for those who saw him as a role model. Unfortunately, despite medical care, Mike Matarazzo couldn't escape the consequences of years of physical strain. In 2014, at just 48 years old, he passed away due to heart complications. His death was a hard blow to the bodybuilding community, which was still recovering from the recent losses of other great names. The news of his passing sparked widespread reflection on the limits of the sport and the need for changes to protect athletes' health. Mike's tragic loss served as a painful reminder that extreme bodybuilding can come at a high cost, especially when health is placed second. Even after his death, Mike Matarazzo's legacy continues to live on. He is remembered not only for his impressive career on stage, but also for his courage in facing his health challenges openly and honestly. He warned thousands of people about the risks of high-performance bodybuilding and inspired many to follow a more balanced and conscious path within the sport. His journey, which began with achievements and admiration, ended with a message of awareness and responsibility. Because of this, Mike remains a legend, not only as an athlete but also as someone who dedicated his life to educating and protecting future generations of bodybuilders. Mike Matarazzo's legacy extends far beyond his impressive competitions and the physique he displayed over the years. Although he never took home the Mr. Olympia or Arnold Classic titles, Matarazzo stood out in a way that few athletes ever did. He was a charismatic figure, a tireless competitor, and, above all, a voice of caution for future generations of bodybuilders. In a sport where the focus is often solely on the physique and winning trophies, Mike offered something different: an honest and realistic perspective on what bodybuilding demands from the body and the sacrifices that come with this life. One of the greatest lessons Matarazzo left behind was the importance of balancing health and performance. He never hid the risks he faced throughout his career, always speaking openly about the use of steroids and other performance-enhancing substances. But rather than glorifying these practices, he took a reflective stance, often encouraging new athletes to consider the long-term consequences. His own experience with heart complications served as a clear example of the dangers that can arise when health is sacrificed for a competitive physique. For many, his honesty was a breath of fresh air in a sport that, for a long time, avoided discussing these topics. Mike Matarazzo also stood out for his ability to inspire athletes of all levels. Whether an amateur bodybuilder or a professional, everyone had something to learn from him. His tireless dedication to training and his passion for the sport served as a model for anyone wanting to excel. But beyond that, Mike showed that success in bodybuilding wasn't just about winning competitions. He believed that the true victory lay in maintaining a balance between physique, mind, and health. This message resonated particularly with younger athletes who saw Matarazzo not only as a competitor but as a mentor. His humble approach and accessible personality made him beloved by both the public and his fellow competitors. Even after his forced retirement due to health issues, he remained a present figure in the bodybuilding community, always sharing his wisdom and encouraging future generations to pursue a more balanced path. Mike knew that his experience could serve as a warning to the young athletes just starting out, and he never hesitated to speak about the sacrifices involved in the sport. In interviews and lectures, he emphasized the importance of thinking about the future and not just focusing on immediate results. Another important aspect of Matarazzo's legacy was his contribution to changing the mindset within bodybuilding. During the 90s, the sport began to increasingly value massive physiques, often at the expense of symmetry and health. Mike, however, always maintained his vision that bodybuilding was an art form, where the balance between muscles, definition, and proportion was fundamental. His approach wasn't just about being big, but about being aesthetically harmonious. This vision influenced a generation of athletes who sought something beyond sheer size, athletes who wanted to achieve a balanced and lasting physique. Even after his death in 2014, Mike Matarazzo's message remains alive. He continues to be a reference in the sport, not just for what he did on stage, but for the impact he had off of it. Many athletes still cite Matarazzo as a positive influence in their careers, someone who taught them to think long-term and to take care of their bodies, both during competitions and in the years that followed. His willingness to speak openly about his personal challenges made him an admirable figure, and his legacy remains a source of inspiration for bodybuilders of all ages. For the new generations entering bodybuilding, Mike Matarazzo's story serves as a reminder that success in the sport isn't measured solely by trophies. It's about how you build your body with responsibility, balance, and respect for your own limits. He showed that being a champion goes beyond titles. It's about leaving a lasting mark on people's lives, inspiring them to find their own path in the sport in a healthy and sustainable way. And for that, Mike Matarazzo will always be remembered as one of bodybuilding's greats, not only for his impressive physique, but for the message of awareness he left for future generations. Mike Matarazzo's journey in bodybuilding is a testament to the willpower, dedication, and passion he had for the sport. Although he never claimed the Mr. Olympia title, his career was marked by consistency, charisma, and an impressive physique that set him apart from other competitors of his time. Matarazzo wasn't just an athlete. He was a true ambassador of bodybuilding, a competitor who, in addition to striving for physical perfection, cared about leaving a legacy that transcended the stage. His impact on the sport, particularly regarding awareness about bodybuilders' health, is something that continues to resonate today. Matarazzo's story reminds us that in bodybuilding, it's not always the titles that define an athlete's greatness. Many competition winners fade into obscurity over time, but those who leave an emotional mark on fans and peers remain alive in the sport's collective memory. Mike was one of those rare athletes. His stunning physique, consistent performances, and humility made him beloved by the public and respected by his peers. Even after his early retirement and the health issues he faced, he remained an admired figure, not just for his appearance, but for his honesty and courage in sharing the challenges the sport can bring. The loss of Mike Matarazzo in 2014 was a hard blow to the bodybuilding community. His passing raised many questions about the sacrifices demanded of athletes in pursuit of physical perfection. Mike never hesitated to speak openly about the risks that he and many others faced to meet the sport's standards. Throughout his life, he became a symbol not only of success but of reflection on the practices and dangers of extreme bodybuilding. He didn't just see himself as a competitor, but as someone who could use his platform to warn and educate, helping future generations find a balance between performance and health. What sets Mike apart from many other athletes is that even off the stage, he continued to inspire. He knew his experience could serve as a guide for young bodybuilders just beginning their journeys. His interviews and lectures after retirement were filled with valuable advice, where he emphasized the importance of taking care of your body in the long term, training smart, and not sacrificing health for quick results. This sensible and realistic approach earned him the respect of both veteran and novice athletes, making Matarazzo a reference figure, even for those who never saw him compete live. Looking at his career and legacy, it's impossible not to wonder what Mike Matarazzo could have achieved if he hadn't been forced to retire so early. But rather than lament what could have been, we should celebrate what he truly was: a dedicated athlete, an icon of bodybuilding, and an inspiration to everyone who follows the sport. His early death, though tragic, reinforced the importance of prioritizing health in a sport where limits are constantly being tested. To many, Mike is remembered not just as a bodybuilder, but as an example of resilience and honesty. Now that you know Mike Matarazzo's inspiring story, I want to hear your thoughts. What impresses you the most about the journey of a bodybuilder who never won Mr. Olympia but is remembered as a legend? Could Mike have had a chance to win if he competed in a different era? Leave your comment below. Share this video with your friends who love bodybuilding. And of course, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. I'm counting on you.